Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. So today I want to take a look at the new moon in Virgo that is occurring on the 6th of September. It's about a week from now. So I thought we could take a look and see what's going on with that moon, and then perhaps do a card reading about the new moon in Virgo. So let's get started here. I'm going to share my screen with you, and hold on one moment here. Okay, so here we have the chart for the new moon in Virgo. The new moon in Virgo is occurring at 15 degrees of Virgo. And here we can see down here with the sun and the moon at 1438. We round it up to 15 degrees. 15 degrees, of course, is in the center of the mutable degrees, right? There's 30 degrees in the sign. So we're in the halfway point. And the Sabian symbol for this degree is, I have my book. No, we'll go back because okay, so I grabbed the book here. I had to go find it. It says 15 degrees of Virgo, a fine lace handkerchief, heirloom from valorous ancestors. The keynote is the quiescence of deeds well done. And I'll read what Dane Rogers says about this. And of course, this is the book, as I often pull from this book. Root strength produces beautiful flowers. The neophyte who acts with determination, courage, and discrimination while following in the footsteps of his predecessors receive a symbolic prize from the brotherhood, ready to welcome him when he has fully proven himself on the battlefield, where he meets his past, which tries to block his way. The mystical beloved hands him what she has woven for him out of spiritual threads. This scene, okay. Says the man of culture in the deepest and best sense of the terms, the aristocrat. He is the flowering of a line of ancestors who have accepted responsibility for a group or a community. Likewise, the true disciple is the blossom that crowns a long series of incarnations. So really, this is speaking about coming to a point in your personal evolution, perhaps, where everything up to this point has brought you to this place of fruition, right? And so it speaks of aristocrat in its most what it's really meant in its way, in that you are the product of your ancestors. And as the African, there's an African saying, we stand upon the shoulders of our ancestors. And so we all have that as we stand here. And I think that this also sort of brings in the idea of, we were made for this time. We often wonder, as we look around and see the world crumbling and changing and shifting, we often ask the question, why, and why here, why now? And we have really come to this point as to witness this change. And it really, I think, requires us to be our best selves, to be our most whole and discerning selves. And of course, discernment is a key quality of Virgo, as is service. And so in its way, this new moon is saying, how will you be of service to humanity at this time? Now, there's a couple of things in this new moon. This happens to be a new moon set for Washington, D.C. If we were to just set this to a 0 degree of Eris, this, of course, the sun and the moon would fall in the 6th house. It would be more of a purely archetypical picture. As it stands here, this for the United States is falling in the house of creativity, in the house of children, and in the house of actually the stock market, interestingly enough. There's a couple of things going on besides this full moon. First of all, this full moon, let's talk about, this new moon. This new moon makes a couple of pretty exact aspects. It makes a trine to Uranus. Now, Uranus is at 1439. This moon, sun moon, is at 1438. So this is as exact a trine as we get. In fact, later in the day, the trine exact itself. In fact, there are 3 trines coming to fruition at the time of this new moon. 2 of them are waning trines, meaning they have the energy of Sagittarius. And one is a creative self-expressive trine, which has the energy of Leo. Now, trines are considered lucky aspects, quote unquote, but really what a trine is that there is energy available and there is nothing impeding that energy. Oftentimes, trines can occur in a chart and you don't even know they're there because it's just the natural background. It's like background noise. You know, if you grow up near a highway, when you first move into a place where there's a highway close by, you hear the highway constantly. And after a while, you don't hear the highway. It becomes background noise. It becomes what you're used to. So trines can actually work that way, but it would be a great waste of a trine to do that. Now I want to go and look at those trines and then we'll look more. Let's first, look at the trines. I think that's what I'd like to do. Let me see if I can go back here. Okay. Okay, so here we have the new moon at 15 of Virgo. We talked about the Sabian symbol for it. It says this: on this day, there are 3 major trines, 2 waning trines, and 1 waxing trine. The two trines are social rewards. Those would be the waning trines. This is about sharing with others what you have found to be meaningful. The 2 trines associated are Mars trine Pluto and Venus trine Jupiter. And then we have 1 trine of creative self-expression. That's the Leo side trine. That's the waxing, the building trine. So this is what we're building upon. The other 2 is what we're disseminating out into the world to help us to come together as a world. And then the second one, this waxing trine is one of creative self-expression. So bringing something to light, bringing something into creation. And that is actually the Sun Uranus trine, which of course we saw in the chart is just a minute away from exactitude at the time of the new moon. So this new moon is very, very heavy on the Uranian energy. Of course, Uranus has been our constant companion now. Probably, really when we started to feel it was 2012 when we started the Uranus Pluto squares, a series of 7 exact squares that had its initiation point in the mid 60s, 65, 66, when those 2 planets came together in Virgo. So the idea of service, and Virgo is also a sign associated with uneven relationships, karmic relationships, also a sign associated with mentorship, right? And so all of this sort of energy of doing something for somebody else, in service to somebody else, or in service to an ideal. Okay. So let's take a look at these trines here. Let's look at the Mars-Pluto trine. The Mars-Pluto trine is at 25 degrees of Virgo Capricorn. And it is a disseminating trine, the seeds of which were planted back in March of 2020, actually on March 23rd of 2020, at 25 degrees of Capricorn. So the symbol for 25 degrees of Capricorn is a store filled with precious Oriental rugs, the use of cultural and artistic processes as a means to enhance personal comfort and appreciation. This speaks of the idea of the rug being, symbolic of the prayer rug. The rug, is the sort of interface between the ground and you sort of praying on the rug, like kneeling on the rug. And while you can kneel and pray on the ground, the rug brings a certain amount of comfort. So there is this sense of, that it's okay to be comfortable, right? It's okay to be comfortable. And it's okay, and it's really about not sort of throwing out the baby with the bathwater with this energy here. And then it is trine Mars at 25 degrees of Virgo. And I'm gonna just pull up 25 degrees of Virgo here because I think it's worth taking a look at. The other thing that we have to remember is that the Mars-Pluto synodic cycle, which started with that conjunction in March of 2020, is actually the way in which the world soul, symbolized by the whatever sign that Pluto is in, how it gets on a conscious level, because the Pluto energy is unconscious. When Mars comes into a conjunction with Pluto, that is conscious action, and Pluto says, this is what I want, and Mars says, all right, I'm going to go out and get it for you, right? So that's the energy of those two energies come together. And we've come to the point in this cycle where we have the rewards, the social rewards. So whatever was seeded back at this time in March of 2020 comes to fruition at this time. Now, what's interesting here in the United States, just as an example, is that that was right around the time we went into lockdown for COVID. And now we are in a place where we do have a vaccine. Not everybody wants to get it. Not everybody trusts it. And now we have this Delta variant. And so we've been through a process where we have learned things, perhaps, but we're still, in a way, in a certain amount of danger from it. And when we're dealing with Pluto, we're dealing with death and rebirth. So the themes of Pluto are of death and rebirth. And so we would expect what we see in the fruition here to be part of that. Of course, Virgo also rules the medical people, right? The nurses, the doctors, the people who are in service, health and welfare. And we know that our medical professionals are exhausted. And I think that it's important that we also take that into consideration as people. It's not just, your own personal rights, but what are we doing to the people who are there to take care of us? Do we care enough about them to take precautions, right? And the like. So let's read 25 degrees of Virgo here. This is what Mars is in. So now we have the Oriental rug, right? The symbol of the Oriental rug, because the initial conjunction is at the same degree as the trine, which often happens actually in my experience. It says a flag at half-mast in front of a public building. Oh, yes, that's right. The social acknowledgement of a job well done and a destiny fulfilled. So perhaps we need to be reminded to take care of those doctors and nurses, of those first responders, of the people at the grocery store who have had to work through this pandemic, well, the delivery people, right? The things that keep the wheels greased, so to speak, so that we can maybe stay at home and still make money, or stay at home. You know what I'm saying? And that's really very much a Virgo energy. The people who are in service in the old days when we had slaves, it was a sixth house Virgo thing. When we had indentured servants, it was a sixth house Virgo thing, right? And so, perhaps the meek shall inherit the earth, but what kind of earth is the meek inheriting, right? Let's be a little bit kinder in that respect. As an individual has accepted any significantly met public responsibility, reaches the end of his service to his community or to mankind as a whole, he gains social immortality, at least to some extent. In death, he becomes identified with an archetype that ensouled his public office. He becomes a culture hero enshrined in the official memory of the race. He has found his place in history. The symbol implies an ability to carry any task to its ultimate fulfillment, provided that the task is carried out with reference to the needs of the collectivity, small or large as it may be. So this is really about putting your best self out there, not necessarily for your own personal aggrandizement, but for the good and the benefit of the community. Okay, so that's the first trine that we have. The second trine is Venus. Oh, and the other thing about Mars and Pluto that I want to mention is that Mars and Pluto are intimately related in that Mars is the higher octave, Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. And so it is really that energy of moving forward, like having to move forward, Mars, right? But having to move forward, Pluto, on the level of evolution. So we are being required to move forward. The energy is there to learn the lessons of this Pluto cycle. And this Pluto cycle began in 2020. Interestingly enough, at the time of that 2020 conjunction, the vibration of that day was a 30/3. And in the Kabbalah, the 30/3 is located in the Sephiroth called Hesed, which means mercy. So it is about, it's a Jupiterian energy. It's associated with the planet Jupiter. So it is about a generosity of spirit. Okay. The second trine is Venus trine Jupiter. Venus and Jupiter are considered the greater benefics. When they trine each other, it can be very lucky. So this is a very lucky trine. Sometimes we can overindulge with this trine, so we do have to be careful. But it is that waning trine. So it's about social rewards. It's about sharing the meaning of what you have learned through the cycle. Now, this cycle, unlike the Mars-Pluto cycle, is actually a one-year cycle. The Mars-Pluto cycle is a two-year cycle. And so this was actually planted on February 11th of 2021 at 13 degrees of Aquarius, this cycle. Today, Venus, Jupiter, let's see, I don't think I wrote it in as to what it is, what degree it's at. Well, we can take a look at it when we get to the chart. But 13 degrees of Aquarius, this is the seed, right? And so this seed has come to fruition, and we have introduced the seed into society. And what are we learning from each other from the seed that was planted? And the symbol for this particular initial conjunction of this synodic cycle was a barometer, the ability to discover basic natural facts that allow us to plan in advance for action. So this is about being ready for what's coming, being ready for what's coming. And then the last trine, of course, is the waxing trine. And this is the trine between Uranus and the sun. Now, Uranus is the great awakener, and the sun is illumination. So we are going to be illuminated as to what kind of what is available to us on in a creative way, for us to utilize this trine energy, right, with this new moon in Virgo. So we have creative self-expression, a waxing trine of the seeds planted April 30th, 2021 at 11 degrees of Taurus. And it says, during a silent hour, a man receives a new inspiration, which may change his life. So this is about listening to that small, still voice within. And Taurus is associated with the path of the Hierophant on the Tree of Life and the number 5. And it is the path in which our higher self, our higher spiritual self speaks to us. And so we need to listen to that small, still voice within. We need quietude. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of action. You can dive into just about anything and just occupy your mind. One of the issues that we have at this time is that we spend so much time sort of looking at an issue and trying to find all the information we can get. We forget that the best information that we can get is the information that comes from within. And that is the thing that is going to ultimately guide us through this point. So to a certain extent, perhaps we need to shut everything off and spend some time in nature, if you can, and just be in the silence and see what comes through at that time. This is something that would be very helpful on this new moon to do. Okay. And here we have the chart again. So the trines that we spoke of, here's Pluto making a trine to Mars, okay? Mars in Virgo. We also have Jupiter making a trine to Venus in Libra, okay? So we have a trine this trine is an earth trine. And let's see, do we have anything else at that tree? Okay, so we have the earth trine. We have an air trine with Jupiter and Venus. So this is conversation, understanding, speaking, air things, mental stuff, right? A loving mind, perhaps. Aquarius and Libra are both signs that are concerned with the other, right? Whereas the earth signs are much more about practical application, right? Practical application. And then, of course, we have the sun trine Uranus, right? The sun trine Uranus. Now, there's other things in this chart as well that we need to look at. This here is Eris. Eris is at 2436 of Aries. Eris has been in Aries since 1925. Eris has a 500 plus orbit, most of which it spends in Aries because of the type of elliptical orbit that it has. It's part of the Kepler. It's part of the Kuiper belt. It's the same place where Pluto is, the Kuiper belt. Pluto's in the Kuiper belt. And we just had a square of Pluto, the fourth of 5 exact squares between Pluto and Eris. Because Eris is slower than Pluto, Pluto is actually applying the square to Eris, and it is a last quarter crisis in consciousness square. We are questioning authority. Eris is the goddess of discord. She was originally initially when they found her, they named her Xena, right? Xena, warrior princess. She has both of those characteristics, if you ask me. And so a lot of the um, a lot of what we see as people not trusting authority comes from this square. This is why we are experiencing this. Of course, we also have to look at the Saturn, what is it, the Saturn Uranus square, which is also a last quarter crisis in consciousness square. But Saturn and Uranus are a little bit more, we'll say, closer to the bone. Um, it's more like your daily life, right? Whereas Pluto and Eris, being planets that are very, very far out, is sort of like a backbeat, like that bass drum, and the bass drum is one of revolution, In this particular new moon, we have the planet Venus and the planet Vesta opposite Eris and square Pluto. These Vesta and Venus and Eris are feminine archetypes, and Pluto is more of a masculine archetype. This is the Me Too stuff, guys. This is the empowerment of women, and the fact that women need to be making more and more decisions about what we are going to do. After all, Mother Earth is a feminine principle. And Mother Earth is raging right now. And really what she wants is she wants to be loved. She wants to be appreciated, just like any woman who works really, really hard and keeps giving and giving and giving and doesn't get anything back in return. You get pissed off, ladies, right? You get pissed off. So this is also something that we look at in this chart. So we have revolution, but we also have a lot of wisdom that comes with this chart. And we also have the ability to have our eyes opened in ways that can move us forward and take us forward into the to the future. So wherever you have 15 degrees of Virgo in your chart is where we have new beginnings. Now, Virgo is a sign associated with discernment. It's a sign associated with perfecting things. It's a sign associated with health and welfare, but also mentorship, pets, the military. It's interesting because as we move out of Afghanistan in the United States, I think there's an understanding about that perhaps we didn't have, because it was going on in the background. A lot of the Afghanistan stuff wasn't really in our focus. And yet we have spent a lot of money there. And really, it seems to me, and this is just what it seems to me, the people who benefited the most from our time in Afghanistan has been the military industrial complex. And so that is something that we need to look at. We are in the midst of our Pluto return. Pluto in Capricorn is the military industrial complex. It's also historically been slavery and empire, right? Taking the lands of others. So there's a lot of things that we have to work on. There's a lot of things that we have to become aware of. And we are really in a fight for our own soul in this country. And, I hate to just, keep bringing it to having it be all about the United States. But we are the leader. And so to a certain extent, we are, it's interesting. I remember hearing a while back. I am going to stop the share right now so you can see me bigger. I remember reading somewhere that the president of the United States, half of the people are more evolved and half of the people are less evolved, or like it's like the middle part, right? Interestingly enough, we had Barack Obama as the president before Trump, and then we had Trump, and they are in their way opposites, right? very much so, right? And yet we had them both as president. So one of the values of the Trump presidency was showing us where the rot is, and showing us, I think that there are people that there are people on one side and the other that their major complaint is that nothing works anymore. And the reason for that is because, well, myriad of reasons, money in politics is one of them. But the people aren't being heard. And so it is the people, it is the people that will ultimately define whether we move forward and we evolve into something greater than we've been, or if we just go to the dustbin of history. So it's really up to us, but it's up to us to be in service to one another. And I think that's really important. So let me grab a deck, and I will do a card reading for this new moon in Virgo. So in honor of the Virgo new moon, I am going to use the Druid Craft Tarot. Virgo was an earth sign. It's a sign of service. And I think, this is a good deck to use for this new moon. So what do we need to be aware of for this new moon in Virgo? In Virgo. So see where you have Virgo in your chart, that 15th degree of Virgo, and you will see what area of life that this new beginning occurs in. In my chart, it's in my first house, second house, right on the cusp there. So it's about me actually being of service, physically, my body being of service. Okay. So let's see what's up. Oops. I just dropped them. But I got them in now. Okay, we have the Princess of Wands, So the Princess of Wands is a card about message. There is a message here. There is a message. Good news, new information coming in. The Princess of Wands is associated with the sign of Sagittarius. And so it is about the wild places. It is about Mother Nature here. And we have the crossing card as death. So, of course, there is a lot of death right now. There's a lot of death because of the COVID. There's a lot of death in the world because of war and different things like that. This is the card of death, is about change. So how do we navigate the change? How do we move through this time of loss and still have a positive outlook that Sag is asking? At the root, we have anxiety. The nine of swords. The 9 of swords is about mental anguish and anxiety. It does not necessarily mean that you're in danger. It means that you're worried about being in danger. So we are in a very, it's almost as if we are overwhelmed by what we see around us. Like, where do you get started with this stuff? We have, in the past, we have the 9 of cups. In the past, although things weren't exactly great, perhaps you felt satisfied. You felt like you had an option, like there were things that were working for you, and perhaps you don't feel that anymore. In the sky, we have the Hermit card. The Hermit is about, it's really about taking the information and the wisdom that you have and shining your light from the mountaintop. It is time to shine your light, folks, even if you'd rather just not. It is the Virgo card. So what this is saying, what Spirit is saying, because that's how I read that card, the card on the top there, the card in the sky perhaps, is that Spirit wants you to shine your light and do your healing work. And we have in the immediate future, we have the Four of Pentacles. The Four of Pentacles is about, in this deck, we have the guy, we don't know if he's locking or unlocking this, right? He has a bag in his hand. Is he unlocking it to steal the money, or is he unlocking it to put the money in this chest? Very interesting. That's an interesting question we're posed. It looks like he has something in the bag, so I'm guessing that he's taking what he has, what valuables he has, and he's keeping them safe. So perhaps that's something that we need to do. We need to keep whatever is valuable to us safe. How it's seen from the outside, the Ten of Pentacles. The Ten of Pentacles can be family money. Okay, it can be, this is very much the symbol. What was the symbol that the symbol of the handkerchief, right? Of the guy getting the handkerchief and standing on the shoulders of his ancestors, the Sabian symbol 415 degrees. That's what this reminds me of. So you do need to stand on the shoulders of your ancestors. You do need to use everything that you have in order to move forward at this time. Domestic situation, we have the Three of Pentacles. This is about somebody who's a craftsman. This is somebody who's very good at what they do. It suggests that when in our own life, to make sure that we're working with the best people. We're working with the best people. Let's see the hopes and fears. We have the King of Cups. It was reversed. I guess there are some people who would like to see, the King of Cups is usually Biden. There are some people who would like to see him fall, and there are some people who are afraid that what went on in Afghanistan is going to be too much of a mark on his presidency. I think he's going to do okay with it. And we have the outcome as the Princess of Pentacles. So this is the Princess of Pentacles is like you're starting over again. And she's looking at this pentacle and she's reevaluating, or she's valuating the pentacle. And so it's really about a new set of values, the things, it's about what is truly important at this moment in time. It's not necessarily going to be what was important in the past. It's what is important in the present moment. We have the Page or the Princess of Wands. We have the Princess or the Page of Pentacles. Those are both located in the Tree of Life in Malkuth, the kingdom. And it's in the center of the tree. It's in the pillar of the present moment. And so we have to take this time moment by moment. Let's see if we get a major arcana. The Ace of Cups, the Three of Wands, and the Four of Swords. They came up, not a major arcana. Let's see if we have something underneath. So we have Dominion, the Lord. This is the Emperor. So what this kind of says to me, and then we have the Queen of Pentacles, and we have the Lady, which is the Empress card. So the Emperor, the Empress, and we have the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles is an energy that sustains. And so the major thing that I get from this is that we need to be very aware of our resources and how to maintain them and how to sustain them. And that needs to be, it's like get out of your head and get into the practical stuff that needs to get done for your health, for your welfare, for your money, for your community, for your country, for your earth, for the animals. It all has to have a practical application. Otherwise, it's just stuff in our head, right? So that's what the reading looks like to me. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe, and I will see you again tomorrow, perhaps. Have a great day. Much love. Namaste.